Did you get this email from MLSPIN demanding changes to your listing agreement and insisting on a new checkbox? Well, I didn't get it, but our general counsel did and a couple other people did, and I suspect that many subscribers of MLSPIN did receive this email. Unfortunately, it's just another thing that we have to change here in Massachusetts, and another change that's coming about because of the ridiculous judicially sanctioned extortion that has gone on in our industry. Now remember, there was a national settlement. It took effect last year on August 17th. But I've said to many of you in many of my videos, there's also a local settlement being negotiated here in Massachusetts and abutting states that utilize MLSPIN in the Nozelek versus MLSPIN case, which is also judicially sanctioned extortion. This is another ripoff that is happening in our industry for no good reason that will do no good to help anybody at all. But the lawyers are going to walk away with a lot of money, and the class plaintiffs, I heard they're going to get like $4 to $7 or something ridiculous. But anyway, I'm here to break down the email that was sent out, break down why, what's required, what you need to change in your listing agreements, and many other things. So let's take a look here. I just went over this with our general counsel. We read through the email last week. We discussed it. We read through it again, and I want to discuss it. So what MLSPIN is insisting is now that there is specific language in all of our listing agreements for everyone that lists a property through MLSPIN as of September 2nd. This information is required in the listing agreements. And if you read what they're requiring, ready? Before entering into a listing agreement, the listing broker must disclose to the seller, number one, that MLSPIN does not require the seller to offer compensation to cooperating brokers, either directly or through buyers. And two, that while a cooperating broker may request compensation from the seller in lieu of requesting from the prospective purchaser, all or a portion of the compensation to which the cooperating broker and prospective purchaser may agree for the cooperating broker's service. I mean, this is insane. This is literally legal word vomit that's going on here in our industry. No one's actually, no seller is going to be like, now explain that to me. It's absurd, but it has to go in there. This service, let me finish the sentence. The service does not require the seller to accede to such a request. So that was the summary that MLSPIN put out, which I thought was a pretty good one. And now they've dumbed it down. When I first read it, I complained about it overall. I thought the whole summary was pretty good. Those particular sentences I thought was a lot of legal word vomit. And they've since decreased it a bit, and we've been in touch with them about this. Final language is supposed to be out any day. By the time you see the video, the final language may be out. But think about the key things that they're requiring in here. They're requiring that the seller is clear that MLSPIN doesn't require them to offer compensation. Well, obviously, okay? No one thinks that the MLS is requiring that. While a cooperating broker may request compensation. Okay, so if a buyer broker requests compensation from a seller, or a buyer requests it from a seller, if you don't do broker to broker like us, MLSPIN wants it to be clear that they don't require the seller to accede. That's A-C-C-E-D-E. Folks, we've got a new word in the vernacular of Anthony Lamacchia, because I have never heard of the word accede in my entire life. I'm 44 and a half years old. I asked a huge audience today, how many people have heard of it? I saw about 4 hands go up. Of course, our general counsel heard of it. He probably knew it when he was 10 years old because he loves words, but I've never heard of such a word. So this word's going to be in there. It does not require the seller to accede to such a request. Wow. Don't we all feel so much more comfortable now that that's in there? Let me keep reading. Both of the above disclosures must appear in the listing agreement. Upon filing the listing broker must certify through the appropriate checkbox, this is what was in the email, in Pinergy, that they made both of the above disclosures to the seller before entering into the listing agreement. And folks, this is all supposed to be done by September 2nd. MLS sent this email out on August the 20th. Now, I know the folks at MLS. Arminio Grasso does a phenomenal job. He's a great guy. Holly Haynes, Melissa, these are all great people running MLSPIN, and they're trying hard. But they're now in a similar situation that NAR was, where their back's against the wall. They want to get the case over with. The MLSPIN board and shareholders want it over with. I'm a shareholder. I didn't want it over with. I wanted them to fight for the next 400 years. I wanted my grandkids, grandkids, grandkids to still be involved in this fight, because I never want to see us give in to these rip-off lawyers and these plaintiffs. But that's beside the point. Let me get back to being professional here. So now there's going to be a checkbox in the MLS. By checking this box, I, as or on behalf of the listing broker, certify that before entering into the listing agreement with respect to this listing, I have notified the seller landlord that MLSPIN does not require the seller landlord to offer compensation. Back to the same language. So now this is going to be a requirement in PIN. You're going to see it come up as of September 2nd. You are also going to notice that the possibility to offer compensation anywhere in MLSPIN is going to be, poof, gone. I actually think that's smart. It should be, then we'll be similar to all the other MLSs in the country that have had to comply with the ridiculous national settlement. Okay, so let's go down the list on the summary. Offers of compensation prohibited in Pinergy. Makes it clear they can't be offered anywhere. Now, some of you may hear that. Just came up at training today. And some of you might say, well, hold on, Anthony. I've still seen compensation being offered in PIN. Of course you have, because PIN, to their credit, they fought this thing longer than anybody. Longer than anybody. And earlier this year, in the spring, they said, we're fighting an uphill battle. Now that the national settlement happened, we're not going to be the only MLS in America to still be able to offer compensation. So we will comply, because they wanted to get it over with. They wanted this behind them. So here we have another group of attorneys running away with lots and lots of money. So that's something that's going to be evaporated September 2nd. For those of you that operate on multiple MLSs, maybe you're Connecticut and Mass, maybe you're New Hampshire and Mass, now you'll see it's the same. There'll be no possibility. Can't disclose compensation anywhere. Yep, we talked about the mandatory disclosure to seller and the checkbox. Number 4, elimination of arbitration requirement. This is interesting. I'm going to read this. Participants and subscribers are no longer required to submit disputes over compensation to arbitration at an association of realtors. Update section 7.2, attachment A. So, most of the MLSs in America agree to force subscribers and members of it to put any disputes through the arbitration process at the realtor board. They're disconnecting that. Why? Because this MLS is not a realtor-owned MLS. Okay? That's why they're doing that. It's all part of the disconnection, because remember, and for those of you that watched my video last week I did a video on the post 1 year of the settlement. And what I talked about in that video is how sellers are still paying compensation, and how the lawyers, the plaintiffs' lawyers failed, right? The haters of our industry, the disruptors of our industry failed miserably. I think of Doug Miller. I think he's in Michigan. He has failed miserably in his big picture desire to destroy the real estate industry as we all know it. And it hasn't happened. So he's failed. All of them have failed. I just want to make sure I'm clear on the word failed. So because they failed, now the plaintiff's attorneys involved in this, and maybe some of the parties, I assume, these are my opinions, folks, I assume that they said, wait a second, sellers are still paying most of the compensations? What? Let's make tougher language. Let's put some tough language in the listing agreement. Yeah, that's going to work real well. You know what it's going to do? It's going to do nothing. It's not going to make anybody any safer, any better off. It's just going to put more work on realtors, more paperwork. For what? In the end, when a seller receives an offer for an amount that they're willing to take in their home, and they see that, oh, the buyer or the buyer's broker are requesting that I pay the compensation, they have no other offers on their home, and they're negotiating, they're going to agree. That's what's happening like 99% of the time. But the disruptors and the plaintiff's attorneys and these people like the Consumer Financial, no, what is it? The Stephen Brobeck, this character, the Consumer Protection, whatever the hell it's called. I can't even think of it right now because I'm so fired up. What do? They don't want to see sellers still paying it. So they're mad. So now they're taking an extra step here to try to create a disconnection. And in a year, I'll do a video and I'll say, hey, post 1 year MLSPIN settlement approval, which by the way is supposed to happen, I think September 29th. And I'm going to say, sellers are still paying most of the compensation and it'll be the same redundant thing. Another thing, elimination of dual and variable rate designations in Pinergy. Again, anything related to compensation is coming out of the MLSs, which frankly is fine with me. Agents are charging more commission in most cases. We're seeing the average commission going up. And hey, that's not what the disruptors wanted, right? They just thought everybody would start working for free. They forget that there are price pressures. There are costs involved. And those price pressures don't really change what something sells for. It doesn't. So, hope that all makes sense. I hope that gives you a better understanding of what's going on here with MLSPIN. Definitely needs to be taken seriously. They're supposed to be sending out a video in the next day or two with the final language for the listing agreements, final language for the checkbox, which I suspect will be slightly different than what we showed you on screen and what I read. But folks, I have full faith you'll make it happen. As our great president of the National Association of Realtors, Mr. Kevin Sears, said when the settlement happened, realtors are problem solvers. So you'll all make it work. Happy home buying, happy home selling, happy Labor Day weekend to everyone except the plaintiffs' lawyers and all of the haters of our industry. May you have a bad weekend. Thank you.